defined me in a nutshell there, didn't I just defined me, right? Tell them to define themselves. With 44 states with child marriage, that's part of you as a country. That's part of your definition. That's a 7. While you sitting up here talking about protecting the children, you can't even talk about it no more. Not intelligently. When you don't know about 44 states marrying children, that's a 7. How are you going to talk about protecting children when you're not educated on your country marrying children? How can you talk about it? That's why I don't believe in none of this no more. I don't believe in none of this. We in the soldier era. Wake up and realize that. We in the soldier era. Not the gang banging era, not the thug era, none of that. This is the soldier era. You better be a soldier. I don't care. Well, if you want to emulate something, you better emulate a soldier or be locked up. Go out there seeing stuff on TV and falling in love with it, watching them old school videos and movies and stuff where people selling, hustling and selling crack. They was in a whole different time than you. They was in a whole different time. As soon as you got more than $50,000 in the hood, you a dinner plate. You a come up. They gonna kick in your door and rob you. Like I don't know. And you can't make no money doing that. As soon as they know you have $500,000, you can have $500,000, and people know that. They watching already. And I ain't talking about the police. I'm talking about the streets. And they gonna kick in your door and rob you. Home invasions. Let's talk about some home invasions. That's what's happening with these young rappers. As soon as they come up, they ain't looking at it no differently. They looking at it that you came up. That's 7. And they giving, and all these rappers, these young rappers, aspiring rappers, just trying to make music, is getting robbed and killed because the streets is looking at them as a come up. See, back in the day, if you was hot, you was a rapper. From my understanding, they protected you. Yeah. Nah, man, get him out the streets. Nah, that he gonna get out of here. We gonna be back here. We losers. This guy's gonna come out of this. He's gonna come out of the street life. These days, they see you and they see all what you got. They want to stop your dreams. Boom. That changed. You ain't see that part, did you? Because back in the day when you was doing hip hop or rapping or singing or whatever, even a singer, you can't even, man, these girls would play diva games with you. You're a pretty girl trying to sing and stuff. Get ready for the haters. Get ready for people coming for you. That's all that's gonna happen. That's all that's gonna happen. Back in the day, if you was a girl that's singing, some other girls, some of your friends will try to hook you up with a DJ or something in the neighborhood. They ain't doing that no more. They trying to stop your dreams. That's all that's going on here is dream killers. People trying to stop people. So it's just a soldier era. Ain't nothing else to be emulated. See, what people don't understand about me, I get respect from all of that. I get respect from thugs. I get respect from killers. I get respect from gangsters. All that stuff that people emulate, I get respect from them. And you equate that to me being a thug. You equate that to me being a gangster. I'm a soldier. A spiritual soldier. More trained than a military soldier. Well, the military ain't telling you about 44 states marrying children, are they? Got any generals in the U.S. Army telling you about child marriage? Yeah, you going out and shooting it out. But but when you come back home, when you settle back in and get you a good meal in, go Google 44 states with child marriage. That's 7. Yeah, that's where we at, as opposed to where you thought we were. Because the internet make y'all think You don't know what time you live in. You could live in any time. We couldn't do that back in the day. If you was in the 80s, you was in the 80s. Pretty much. If you was in the 90s, you were in the 90s. These days, you can go on YouTube and live in the 90s. You can go on the internet and live in the 90s. You can watch all 90 movies, all 90 YouTube stuff, listen to interviews from the 90s, and people do it as a form of nostalgia, or they just find that to be the decade that they admire. For whatever reason, you can live in all these decades in the past. We couldn't do that in the 80s and 90s. You were there, and there, that's it. You could watch some movies from back in the day, but for the most part, though, you were in the 80s or the 90s. You see the difference? You weren't watching a whole pack of videos from the 80s. I mean, from a different decade, from the 60s and 70s. You weren't watching packs and packs of videos. Unless you had parents that had stuff from the 60s, music from the 60s and 70s. They had records and all that kind of music and stuff. But the average family didn't really have that in the 80s and 90s. So every family didn't have packs of music from the 60s and 70s and VCR tapes or footage from the 60s and 70s. These days, you could just, if you could live in the 80s and 90s. You can watch all kinds of videos and you don't have to be in the present time. Understand this. That means some of you are not living in the present time. You go back and watch everything. You go back and I follow everything. I follow different decades, but I'm aware of what time I live in. I know how to separate the past from the present. That's a 7. And see what happened was, say it like that. See what happened was, while you was looking at all the stuff on YouTube and all of this and all of that and watching stuff in the 80s and 90s, other forces were building something in this country. Now you're awake, but it's too late. While you were stuck in the 80s and 90s on YouTube, present people in the present were doing stuff. That's a 7. In your environments that you were not aware of. They got you. And then I showed up and shut it down. 44 states marrying children is the shutdown, buddy. I don't care what you was building. I don't care what you are presently building. There is no way you can overcome that. You know how some people in the street say, you can't overcome that. You can't get past that. Oh, they'll say that when they think you're dead. They said that to me. Oh, you can't get past that. And I did. Because you know what? I'm an 80s baby. I was raised in the 90s. I was raised on the best of everything. That's why I made it. Why you think I'm some 20-year-old kid fighting for my life? I was raised in the 90s. I was raised with the best of everything. For all that cop stuff that comes on now, we even had better cop movies and all of that. Man, okay, you got cop shows, but the cop movies were way better. 80s and 90s, man, come on, they'll blow any of that cop stuff you watch, they'll blow all of that out the water. Go watch, everybody watched it back in the day. Them cop movies. Steven Seagal cop movies and all these different, 48 Hours and all of that different kind of stuff. Eddie Murphy and the other guy. Beverly Hills Cop, Eddie Murphy in that too. Hunter. Some of y'all don't even know what Hunter is. Hunter. And Cops, the show, Cops was, everybody watched Cops. So it don't matter what you have in these areas, man. See, what I call it is, and I'm gonna do a video on this too. This is a term I coined. It is the fullness of times. And you know why I say it's the fullness of times? Because you've had your best singers, rappers, athletes. You've had the best of everything you can imagine. Culturally speaking, it's the fullness of times. Everything. best of everything has already been passed. It's already passed. The best of everything. That's why people keep going back. You keep going back to all that old stuff. You know why? Because it's the fullness of times. It's the fullness of times. It's now, it hit a peak and then it started to decline. That's a 7. And there's good comedians, there's good people out there, there's good music, there's good stuff. But it's the fullness of times. We already had the best of everything in this civilization called America. We've already had the best of everything here. It's already been done. Now, am I saying you're limited as a singer, rapper, actor, actress to what someone else has done? I'm not saying that. You might have something you can present that no one has done before. But the bottom line is, culturally speaking, man, it's no way you're going to get all good basketball players, all good music, all good everything like it was. So it hit a peak. And once it hit a peak, it went down the other side of the mountain. Just look at it like one side of the mountain. It went all the way up to a peak. And then it went down the other side of the mountain like that. That's what happened. So you're in the fullness of times now. That's a 7. You got to know where you at. So you know, with all and let me help you understand something too. With all this the police stuff that people watch on TV and all of this and all of that, you know, the American community kind of soft on the police. Yeah, you are. You're soft on the police. Now, am I calling people to arms to go slaughter police? No, I'm not. But they ain't no good no more either. That's a 7. Well, look at all these shootings that's going on. We didn't have that in the 90s. We didn't have that in the 80s. Cops were not shooting down black people like they are now. So it's even the fullness of times as far as the good cops. See, back in the day, the cops would play basketball with the kids. They would help them do stuff. They would interact with the community. Man, these cops ain't interacting with the community no more, man. Not culturally. They shooting them down. Back in the day, cops went into the community and played basketball, helped kids build stuff, build dog houses and stuff. You know what I mean? Cops are not even built like that no more. That's a 7. Man, cops ain't built like that. They could care less about your kid getting a doghouse. They could care less about playing basketball with some kids they scared of. Back in the day, the cops were not scared of the community. That's a 7. They were not scared of the community. Everybody know in the streets, the scared man shoots first. The person that's scared, he's going to shoot you first. That's the cops. That's a 7. Back in the day, the cops were interacting with the baddest neighborhoods. They tried to go in and they were talk to persons, people. They knew individuals. Man, they ain't doing that no more. So that's for all the cop phenomenon, TV shows, and all the cop stuff. I mean, you know, America's embracing it. I'm not. Cops, I came from an era, I was a little after the era where the cops were interacting with the neighborhood. They kind of stopped because the 80s and the 90s, all the stuff that happened. But I caught information about how they used to be. And they were interacting with the community. They're not doing that anymore. So why should I look at them as noble when they shooting black people down? They ain't shooting nobody else down. They shooting black people down. You can't get it together yet. You know the neighborhood dangerous. See, what the problem is, cops got to be willing to lay down their life, and they not willing to do that. That's a 7. No, before a cop lay down his life, he'll take yours. That's a 7. See, back in the day, I would imagine a cop would be willing to die before they kill the innocent person. They'll walk up on a person, and if that person is innocent, they would almost be ready to take a bullet from whoever instead of shooting that innocent person. That's a 7. You can forget about a cop like that now. They're going to shoot you first and ask questions later. That's what kind of cops being bred all around the country. Shoot you first and then ask what happened. Try to figure out what happened. Try to figure out where you come from. Try to find your ID after you got shot down. You missed when it changed. I'm gonna tell you when that changed. I'm gonna tell you when that changed. Around Ferguson time. When Ferguson came in 2014, that's when Ferguson came. 2014, at the end of 2014. That's when Ferguson came. See, I follow stuff. It's in my mind. I have a timeline of this country in my mind. Half of y'all don't. You don't got no timeline of America in your mind? You do not. When the police, all that, when that stuff started happening, it was around Ferguson. After that, you got riots. You had all this. Curfews and all of that. All of that came right after 2005. So we've been going through that about 8 years now. Almost a decade now. So while you respect cops and all of that, they're human beings like me and you, and I don't see nothing that separates them from me and you. They shoot people down like it ain't nothing. They ain't willing to lay their life down. They supposed to be soldiers. Soldiers are willing to lay their lives down. They come out here and they're not soldiers. They want to shoot people, they need to go to the military. You can shoot all the people you want. But you ain't got the balls to do it. You in the wrong institution, buddy. You're a police officer and you want to use your gun, you want to see how it shoots, then you need to go to the military. That's a 7. If you want to shoot people, and that's really what it is, you want to see how it feels to shoot somebody, then you need to go to the military, buddy. You're in the wrong institution. You can do all the shoot. That's what you go there for. You can do all the shooting you want, but you ain't got the balls to go, do you? You want to sit in the police office, police precincts, acting like a military man. You sign up to be a cop, but you walk around like you a military man. Ready to shoot, ready to use your gun, want to see how it feels to shoot somebody. If you want to see how it feels to shoot someone, then technically speaking, you're in the wrong institution. You need to go to the military. You want to be in action, gun action, then you need to go to the military. This is what people do. This is what Americans do. But here you are in the police office, Huh? You should have went to the military, buddy. That's what you should have did. So like I said, man, back to the video at hand. The age of consent presently all around the country in October 2022. The present day that we live in, the age of consent is at 40, in 40 states, it's under 18. Whether you like it or not. Okay? I don't choose the times we live in. I don't choose what happened in the times we live in. I'm not the author of what happens in these times. I'm not the author of what happens in these times. This is what's happening. That's what you got to differentiate me from what's happening and from, oh, well, how he feels about this, how he feels about that, nah. This is what's happening, guys, in this time. 44 states for child marriage. Right now, in October 2022. Last child marriage law was passed under the Trump administration. Just in case you think this is not relevant information, the last child law was passed during the Trump administration. Okay? A year before COVID. That's very relevant. And Trump had to see this law. He had to see what this law was. He had to see it. He was the president. So you think they passed a law? Child marriage law now. And the president didn't see it. That's something else you have to make a liability to his records. Is the fact that under his administration, a child law was passed. That's a 7. I know you don't even know about it. It's a child marriage law passed. The last child marriage law was passed under the Trump administration. I don't know about the other child laws and what administrations they were passed under. All I know is, for sure, the last child marriage law that I know of was passed under the Trump administration. Just when you thought Trump couldn't get no worse. Well, it's no way in the world you can convince me that this man did not see this law. He either got an email or some type of memo, some type of bulletin. Come on now. So laws are just being, I ain't say did he pass the law. I'm not saying because these laws are state laws. Okay? But one thing for sure, we know he had to be aware of it. He had to have been informed of it in some form or fashion. That's the bottom line. That's a 7. He didn't care to change it. Big as his mouth is, he ain't say nothing about it. He hooping and hollering and he talked about everything else. What the Democrats doing, what everybody else doing. Rosie O'Donnell, what she doing. Irrelevant stuff. With LeBron, talk junk about LeBron. He talked about everything and everybody else, but he sitting up and talking about a law that's passed under his administration. That's a 7. He worried about what Rosie O'Donnell doing. What a cornball. Got the time to talk about Rosie O'Donnell. I'm just saying. He got the time to talk about LeBron James. Man, you ain't even cool enough to talk about LeBron. That's a 7. Man, Donald Trump ain't even cool enough to talk about LeBron. You ain't even cool enough to speak on that man. Not to me. You shouldn't have one word to say about him. You a cornball, man. Man, you a cornball, man. Culturally speaking, you are not cool. You never been cool to me. Why? Oh, only thing been cool about him is he been affiliated with money. That's a 7. When we hear him talk, what's cool about him? He ain't never said nothing appealing or cool. Only reason he's appealing to you as a community and he got in the White House because y'all looked at him as a financial mogul. That's a 7. How about now? You think Donald Trump is a financial mogul now? That's why you put him in there. What other reason? He ain't say nothing worth nothing. He ain't say nothing worth nothing to convince anybody that he should be the president. We all were fooled. We all were. Me included. Me included. I didn't vote for him though. I wasn't that food. But I was food. I kind of let him get under the radar because I thought, oh, well, like most Americans, maybe he'll use his financial savviness, if you will, to do something about the politics. That's what most average, everyday Americans thought. Okay, well, he's affiliated with money. He's considered a financial mogul. Well, let's see what he do with the White House. That's a 7. And that's what got you fooled. You want me to tell you what he did with the White House? He said nothing when a child marriage law was passed under his administration. That's a 7. He said nothing about it. How you gonna tell me he ain't know nothing about this? What sense does that make as the president? With laws now. Come on now. Make it make sense now. If you're gonna say something, make it make sense. See, you have not accepted that he basically is public enemy number 1. In your country, oh, I know, you don't want to accept it. He already got an army. He's ready for you. Oh, he ain't ready for you? While you was being stupid and not paying attention. I'm not picking anyone out particularly. Like I told you, he ain't cool enough to speak on LeBron James to me. But while everybody was doing whatever they were doing, this man was building his own military like Hitler. That's basically what it is. That's what Hitler did. Hitler gained influence and started his own movement. Donald Trump is doing nothing differently if you pay attention. He already has a group of violent individuals, military, ex-military, even military individuals. He has all type of people he can utilize in war. That's no different than what Hitler did. See, if this was a Star Wars empire, you wasn't ready for Darth Vader. You had Yoda, you had Obi-Wan Kenobi, you had even Anakin is Darth Vader, but you had the whole Jedi, right? Chewbacca, you got the Jedi and its allies, right? But you forgot the part about a Darth Vader eventually coming into the empire. That's who Donald Trump is. He is the Darth Vader of your empire. That's the best way I can tell you. That's the best way I can put it. And if you look, you slept on him. You slept on him. You slept on him. A child marriage law was passed under his administration. And you think you Yoda. That's a 7. You a joke. That's what you are. You don't even realize Trump done came and went. And you didn't even know you didn't even know that a child marriage law was passed under his administration. And you think you Yoda. Well, Yoda receives intelligence about his empire now, doesn't he? In the distant empires now, doesn't he? So how are you Yoda? Why? Because you know martial arts. You Yoda because you know martial arts. But you don't know about 44 states marrying children while you teaching children martial arts. That's a 7. See the difference between me and you? You know a form of fighting. I am fighting. And let's put it like this. You know a form of fighting. I'm effectively fighting. Well, I don't got to use no guns. I don't got to kick nobody. I don't got to do a roundhouse. That's all you ready to do. Roundhouses and kicks and pull guns. And you ain't going to be able to stand a chance against the American government and institutions running around thinking you're going to roundhouse somebody and pull an AK-47 or SKS. You ain't going to be able to win no wars that way. You know how you beat America? Through its lack of morality. This is how I beat America. Through its lack of morality. They're a cautionary tale at this point. They are a cautionary tale at this point of what not to be. A big, strong empire rose up in the world. No one could defeat it. No one could get near it. However, it was destroyed because of its lack of morality, strong as it was. That's the tale of America. We got you. Where you gonna go now? We ain't gotta shoot you. We ain't gotta blow up nothing. I ain't gotta do no terrorist attack. You got 44 states for child marriage, buddy. You know what these Americans are gonna do to you? You know what these crazy people are gonna do to you? Huh? You another one. You didn't know the times you were living in, did you? Under Trump's administration, child marriage was passed. Did the military know about it? Was the military informed about it? That's a good question. Was the police institutions informed about that? That's a good question. Was the American police institution informed about about the last child marriage law that was passed under the Trump administration? Were they aware of that? Was the FBI and the CIA informed about the new child marriage law while they trying to catch prostitution rings and sting prostitution rings? Were they informed of child marriage passed under the Trump's administration? July